ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
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 Can recite all together. ओम
ओम
ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य
अनन्तस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया
ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं
चक्षुरुन्मिलितं
येन
येन
तस्मै
तस्मै
गुरवे
श्रीगुरवे
नमः।
नमः।
श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं
चैतन्यमनोभीष्टं
स्थापितं
स्थापितं
येन भूतले
भूतले
स्वयं
स्वयं
रूप
रूप
कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्।
ददाति
वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो
श्रीगुरो
श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन्
श्रीगुरुन्
वैष्णवांश्च
वैष्णवांश्च
श्रीरूपं
श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं
साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं
रघुनाथान्वितं तं
तं
सजीवं
सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं
सावधूतं
परिजनसहितं
कृष्ण
कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं
श्रीराधा
श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च।
श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च।
हे
हे
कृष्ण
कृष्ण
करुणा
करुणा
सिन्धु
सिन्धो
दीनबन्धो
दीनबन्धो
जगत्पते
जगत्पते
गोपेश
गोपेश
गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त
राधाकान्त
नमोऽस्तुते।
नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन
तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे
राधे
वृन्दावनेश्वरी
वृन्दावनेश्वरी
वृषभानुसुते
वृषभानुसुते
देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च
कल्पतरुभ्यश्च
कृपा
कृपा
सिन्धुभ्य
सिन्धुभ्य
एव च
एव च
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो
पावनेभ्यो
वैष्णवेभ्यो
वैष्णवेभ्यो
नमो
नमो
नमः।
नमः। नमः
नमो
ॐ
विष्णुपादाय
विष्णुपादाय
कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय
कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय
भूतले
भूतले
श्रीमते
श्रीमते
भक्तिवेदान्त
भक्तिवेदान्त
स्वामी इति
स्वामी
नामिने।
नामिने।
नमस्ते
नमस्ते
सरस्वते
सरस्वते
देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे
गौरवाणी
निर्विशेष
निर्विशेषशून्यवादी
शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे।
पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे।
जय
जय
श्री
श्री
कृष्ण
कृष्ण
चैतन्य
चैतन्य
प्रभु नित्यानंद
नित्यानंद
श्री
श्री
अद्वैत
अद्वैत
गदाधर
गदाधर
श्रीवासादि
श्रीवासादि
गौरभक्तवृंद।
गौरभक्तवृंद।
हरे
हरे
कृष्ण
कृष्ण हरे
कृष्ण
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 हरे
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 हरे राम
राम
हरे
हरे
राम
राम राम
राम
राम
राम
हरे
हरे
हरे।
हरे।
श्री कृष्ण भगवान की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय। जय। Okay, so let's start with our ninth chapter. So last week we finished eighth chapter, which was one of the very nice, beautiful chapters. And from here onwards, it gets more kind of deeper and deeper, or as the title of this chapter says, Rajavidya Rajguhya Yoga, or the confidential knowledge, the most confidential knowledge actually. So this is because it is king of all the confidential knowledge. It's king of all the knowledge and king of the confidential knowledge. Okay, so let's recite the verse. Shri Bhagavan Vacha
श्री भगवान उवाच
Idam tu te guhyatamam
इदं तु ते गुह्यतमम्
Idam tu te guhyatamam
इदं तु ते गुह्यतमम्
Pravakshamyanusuyave
प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे
Pravakshamyanusuyave
प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे
Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam
ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं
ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं
ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं
यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभात्
यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभात्
यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभात्
यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभात्
श्रीभगवानुवाच
श्रीभगवानुवाच
इदं तु ते गुह्यतमम्
इदं तु ते गुह्यतमम्
प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे
प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे
ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं
ज्ञानं विज्ञानम्
यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभात्.
यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभात्.
Okay, both of you can recite. Let's start with Chandrakant Prabhu.
श्री भगवान उवाच
श्री भगवानुवाच
इदं तु ते गुह्यतमम्
इदं तु ते गुह्यतमम्
प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे
प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे
ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं
ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं
यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभात्.
यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभात्. मधु प्रभु.
श्री भगवानुवाच
श्री भगवानुवाच
इदं तु ते गुह्यतमम्
इदं तु ते
गुह्यतमम्
प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे
प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे
ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं
ज्ञानं
विज्ञानसहितं
यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभात्.
यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभात्. Thank you, Prabhu. So let's do word for word translation or synonyms. Shri Bhagavan Vacha means the Supreme Personality of Godhead said. Idam means this. Tu means but. Te means unto you. Guhyatamam means the most confidential. Pravakshami means I am speaking. Anasuyave means to the non-envious. Jnanam means knowledge. Vijnana means realized knowledge. Sahitam means with. Yat means which. Jnatva means knowing. Mokshase means you will be released. Ashubhat means from this material, miserable material existence. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjun, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. So this is from in the last almost 8 chapters, Krishna, whatever knowledge Krishna has given. So he's slowly increasing the confidentiality of the knowledge. So the Guhyatamam word here that is used is like superlative degree. We know, right? In English, we learn this. What is good, better, best, or what is the first called?
काय
Comparative and then superlative. So good is something, then comparative is better, and then superlative is
superlative, yeah, the best kind
best.
of, yeah.
So here Guhyatamam. So Guhya means secret or confidential. Guhyatara means more confidential than that, and Guhyatama means most confidential. There is nothing more confidential than this. So he is revealing, Krishna is revealing from now onwards in this chapter what is the most confidential knowledge. And why is he revealing this? Because he is saying that you are not envious of me, anasuyave, because you are never envious of me. So that is the quality that Arjuna has, and that's why Krishna is very confident in revealing this knowledge to him. We will not give any knowledge to person who is envious of us, right? When we give something confidential to us, we see that, oh, that person is friendly, he is reliable, and he's not envious of us. He's not going to use that knowledge for wrong purpose or against me or against anybody. So in the same manner, Krishna is saying that you are not never envious of me, and that's why I'm giving you this knowledge. And what will happen after you get this knowledge? Moksha se ashubha. You will be freed, or you will be released from all the ashubha. Ashubha is all these material miseries, what we are experiencing in this material world. You will be freed from everything. So that's why this knowledge is very, very important that Krishna is mentioning. So going forward, we have to be very attentive when we are hearing, because what Krishna is giving to us through the medium of Arjuna is very confidential, or most confidential knowledge. So let's read the purport.
As the devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed among devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. The devotees are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lord understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness, and gives him the intelligence to understand the science of Krishna in the association of devotees. Discussions of Krishna is very potent, and if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement towards spiritual realization. Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his potent service, described in this 9th chapter, matters more confidential than any he has already disclosed. The very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. And in the second and third chapter, the spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. Topics discussed in the 7th and 8th chapters are specifically related to devotional service. And because they bring enlightenment in Krishna consciousness, they are called more confidential. But the matters which are described in the 9th chapter deal with unalloyed pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential. One who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He therefore has no material pangs, although he is in the material world. In the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, it is said that although one who has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Supreme Lord is situated in the conditional state of material existence, he is to be considered liberated. Similarly, we shall find in the Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter that anyone who is engaged in the way is a liberated person.
Thank you, Prabhu. Madhu Prabhu, you can read the remaining 3 paragraphs.
Now this first verse has specific significance. The words idam jnanam, this knowledge, refer to pure devotional service, which consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. When one's heart is thus cleared of material contamination, one can understand this science of Krishna. Simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. That may be the beginning of spiritual realization, but one should recognize the difference between activities of the body and the spiritual activities of one who understands that he is not the body. In the seventh chapter, we have already discussed the opulent potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his different energies, the inferior and superior natures, and all these material manifestations. Now, in chapter 9, the glories of the Lord will be delineated. The Sanskrit word Anasuyave in this verse is also very significant. Generally, the commentators, even if they are highly scholarly, are all envious of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the most erudite scholars write on Bhagavad Gita are very inaccurately because they are envious of Krishna. Their commentaries are useless. The commentaries given by devotees of the Lord are bona fide. No one can explain Bhagavad Gita or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he is envious. One who criticizes the character of Krishna without knowing him is a fool. So such commentaries should be very carefully avoided. For one who understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pure and transcendental personality, these chapters will be very beneficial.
Thank you, Madhu Prabhu. Mhm. So, yeah, very nice points. Prabhupada little bit summarizes the how he calls this as the most confidential knowledge, because in the beginning, the first and second chapter, first chapter is generally the introduction of, it's called setting the scene, means what is happening on the war. The Gita instructions actually starts from second chapter, because Arjuna is put into the dilemma in the first chapter, and Krishna doesn't even, there is no words that Krishna speaks in the first chapter. And then when Arjun surrenders to him and then accepts him as spiritual master or guru and completely surrenders him and asks for, in that way, in that mode, as a shishya, then Krishna starts giving this knowledge, because this knowledge is to be given in a guru shishya parampara, and it is not something that can be learned in an argumentative or challenging way. It has to be learned in submissive way. So when Arjuna submits to Krishna, Karpanya doshopahata svabhava prachami tvam dharma sammoda cheta nishreyasan nishchitan bruhitan me shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. That now I accept you as my guru, and please accept me as your shishya. Shishyaste, shishya of you, aham shadimam, please instruct me, tvam prapannam, I surrender unto you completely. Then Krishna starts giving this knowledge. So that's the first lesson, that this knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita can be understood only in Guru Shishya Parampara, and when somebody submits to Krishna and his representative in a and accepts this knowledge in a submissive way, not in a challenging way. And then in the second chapter, Krishna explains whole first lesson, the very first lesson Krishna gives to Arjuna is that we are not this body. We are eternal soul. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatrana muhyati. Just like the soul is changing body even in this lifetime, it is going from a child body to a youth body to a middle-aged body to a old-age body. In the same manner, when it leaves this body, it gets another body. Tatha dehantara prapti, and it gets another body. Deha antara prapti. त्याला दुसऱ्या देहाची प्राप्ती होते. Dhira, a person who is self-realized, who understands this, na muhyate. He is not confused. He is not bewildered by this. He is not very what do you call? Bewildered is the word I was thinking, but so he doesn't have any issues with that. He understands this completely, and that's why he doesn't see any problem there. He knows that we are changing this body even in this lifetime. So this start, then in third chapter we learn about karma yoga. So then Krishna says that, oh, because you have this body, as long as you have this body, you should do work. Whatever is the prescribed duty given to you in the Vedic literature, you should follow that and do your dharma. So follow the scriptures and perform your karma. But karma is to be done for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Yajnarthi karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhane, he says in the third chapter. So how to do work, that he explicitly gives there, that it should not be done for our own sense gratification because it causes bonding. Yajnarthi karma anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanai. In this loka, any other karma that is done which is not for the satisfaction of Yajna Purush Vishnu, then that causes karma bandhan. And because of that karma bandhan, we keep getting different results of that, and we keep experiencing happiness, distress, and then we keep getting different types of bodies in this material world. But after we get this knowledge and we apply this knowledge and we start working towards satisfaction of Vishnu, then we start getting us freed from all the karma bandhan, and then that's the status of liberating ourselves from all the bondage what we have created, all the karma bandhan. So these are the few parts he discusses in the first couple of chapters. Then in the fourth chapter, he elaborated about the different types of sacrifices that those are to be performed. And these sacrifices are to be performed under the guidance of a spiritual master. So how do we get this how do we get that knowledge how to perform sacrifices or yajna? Then he says that tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya, that you should surrender to a spiritual master who is तत्वदर्शी. तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेक्षन्ति ते ज्ञानम ज्ञानिनस्तत्वदर्शिनः. So you should first, how do we approach a guru? And again, even in that verse, Krishna says, not in an argumentative or challenging mode, tadviddhi pranipatena. First you surrender unto him. Pariprashnena, and then you ask questions submissively, and sevaya, you do seva of him. And in that way, you can get upadekshanti te jnanam. They will give you this knowledge, or your spiritual master or guru will give you this knowledge. How can he give you this knowledge? Tattvadarshina, because he himself has seen the truth. He is Tattvadarshi. And only that person can give this knowledge. So we have to be very careful what type of person we accept as our spiritual master and whom we are asking question. And he should be coming from the bona fide Guru Shishya Parampara. That's what he also mentions in the fourth chapter in the beginning, that evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo vidu, that this college is always received in the Guru Shishya Parampara. And then in the fifth chapter, Karma Sannyas Yoga, then he touched about how even performing this duty, you can stay detached. You can remain sannyas, vairagya vritti. So while doing work, when you are not attached to that work, then you attain the Brahma Nirvana. So towards the end of the fifth chapter, he uses this Brahma Nirvana term in several verses, that once you are not detached and you understand that even though this body is doing all the things, the person within this body, the soul, is not actually doing it. It's just desiring, and material nature through this medium of body is fulfilling these desires as appropriate. So even when a person, we think that I am doing this, the body is facilitating me to do those things, but I am actually not doing anything. I am just having those desires, and this material nature is fulfilling those desires. And then fifth chapter concludes that Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram surudam sarvabhutanam jnatva mam shanti mrichyati. So how to get peace? That is the peace formula that Prabhupada calls several times. That when one understands that or accepts that Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam, all the yagnas and all the tapa, all the austerities and sacrifices performed anywhere in any part of the universe, who is the ultimate enjoyer or ultimate bhokta? Krishna is Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, and one who accepts Krishna as the Maheshwara, the supreme controller of all the planetary systems in every universe. And Surudam Sarvabhutanam, and he accepts or he knows that Krishna is the best well-wisher friend of all living entities, not only human beings, but all the living entities, whichever type exists in all the universes. Krishna is the best well-wisher friend. And then the person who knows this, what happens to him? Shanti mrichati. Jnatva mam, one who knows me in this way, Shanti mrichati, he gets peace. Then he doesn't remain, there is no anxiety for him. He is completely peaceful. And then about Brahma Nirvana, when he's elaborating, he touches the yoga process in the 5th chapter. And in the 6th chapter, then Krishna elaborates on the Dhyana Yoga. So the whole yoga process, Ashtanga Yoga, how yoga to be performed, what type of yoga are there, what type of yogis are there, then how a person who is in the preliminary stage of yoga should perform yoga, and one who is advanced in yoga, how does he perform yoga? So Yoga Ruruksha is called preliminary yogi, and Yoga Ruda is called the advanced yogi. And so this description in detail he gives, that one should go in a secluded place, sit in a erect way, focus on your half closed eyes and focus on your tip of the nose, and then do dhyana on the Paramatma within the heart. Not something light or nothingness or anything. No, it is clearly given that meditate on me, which is sitting in the heart as Paramatma. But Arjuna, even though he is one of the best focused person and the best archer, he completely rejects this process. He said, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavadrudam. So this mind, Arjuna argues that the mind of Krishna is very chanchal. And it is very balwan, it is very strong and obstinate. And to control this is very, very difficult. One time one may be able to control the wind, which is itself is very difficult to control, but the controlling mind is very difficult. And Krishna then says this, yes, that controlling mind is difficult, but abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyana tu dushkaram. That this very difficult mind, by practice, abhyas and vairagya, by detachment, can be controlled. And then Arjuna asked him that, what if somebody starts this yoga process, what you are elaborating, and then he advances on the spiritual path, but life is short, right? So what if he doesn't complete this and then eventually gives up this body? So isn't it like then he's lost on both the fronts, that he doesn't get material enjoyment as well as he doesn't get complete perfection in the yoga practice? So what happens to that person? Very valid question. And then Krishna answers him that anybody who chooses this path is never a loser. He is always a winner, because whatever practice he has, whatever achievement he has done in this life, he carries those forward in the next life as well. So if somebody has started on this spiritual journey, so in the next life, he will start from where he has left off. On the contrary, any material gain what I have earned in this life is completely lost when I leave this body and I have to start over again. But any spiritual advancement what I have done, I start in next life where I have left off. So if I say, if somebody has progressed, say 11% in this life, let's take a hypothetical number. So in the next life, he already has his spiritual advancement up to that 11%, and then he will start from there and progress after 11%. He doesn't have to start from zero. And he says that Shuchinam Srimatam Gehi Yoga Bhrashta Sanjayate. That somebody who had made some advancement, they will get birth in a pure family. Shuchinam. Shuchi means a Brahman family where he is automatically engaged in some getting this knowledge about this understanding, getting exposure to the scriptures. And Shimatam, where he gets aristocratic families, birth in aristocratic or wealthy families, where he doesn't have to worry about his uh, what do you call the natural or necessities. All his necessities are taken care of. He has given a good life, and then he can use that life or his wealthy way to advance in spiritual life. But if somebody has advanced too much, somebody is very high, then he is given birth in a family of a devotee, where he can get exposure to this Krishna consciousness from the very childhood. But he says that that birth is very, very rare. But ultimately, the concluding verse of the 6th chapter, Krishna says that Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate mam same yukta tamomatha. That out of all the yogis, whatever practices I have elaborated in this chapter, out of like the Ashtanga yogi or Dhyana yogi or Jnana yogi, or even we learned before in the previous chapters, Karma yogi, out of all the yogis, one who completely dedicates his life in devotional service to me, that is the highest yogi of all. That is the best yogi of all. And then he, in the 7th chapter, he gets directly into the spiritual science, that the knowledge I am going to give you is, once you know this knowledge, you will have nothing else to learn anymore. And then he establishes his supremacy, that matta parataram na anyadi kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamadam protam sutre maniganava iva. That there is nobody superior to me, because everything what you see around is made up of my two types of energies. One is material energy and one is spiritual energy. And then he elaborates his glory. He mentions some of his potencies. Rasoham apsu kaunteya prabhasmi shishasoryayo. That the taste of water is I am. The light or the effulgence of sun and moon, that is also I am. So everything, that way he establishes his supremacy in how he is entered into everything. And then he also mentions that ultimately the jnani, one who is in knowledge, he will know that Krishna is the source of everything. Bahunam janmanamante. After many, many births, jnanavan mam prapadyate. One who is in real knowledge, he surrenders unto me. And then he knows Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. That Vasudeva, Krishna, is the source of everything, and he is the ultimate aim, goal of life. Then that type of person he calls as Mahatma. And that is very, very rare. And then he says, eventually in the 7th chapter, he concludes that he gives some technical terms from the spiritual understanding, that sadhibhuta adidaivam sadhiyagnyam chaye vidu, that adhibhuta adiyagnyam. So then in the 8th chapter, Arjuna begins the chapter with these questions then, that you just mentioned that there is something called Brahma, there is adhyagnya, adhibhuta, then karma, then what are these terms? Can you please tell me? And how can one think of you at the time of death? Because in the previous chapter, the concluding verse, one who is in this consciousness at the time of death, he attains me. Then Arjuna asked him that prayana kale cha katham jneyosi niyatatmavi, that how can one remember you? And then Krishna answers those questions in a couple of verses, and the rest of the chapter he elaborates on the how one can remember, or what state of mind one can attain at the time of death, and what will be his destination depending on the state of mind he has, plus the time at which he leaves the body. But then he concludes that naite sruti partha janan yogi mujyati kashana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna. That my devotee, even though he knows this, both the path of light and path of darkness, he is not worried about anything. And that's why he said, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu. That's therefore all the time you should engage in my devotional service. Be yoga yukta. And for a devotee, then, is he not benefited for the benefits somebody can get some from the study of the Vedas, or doing charity, or performing yajna sacrifices, or performing all the duties perfectly? So what happens, because those persons who are engaged in the Vedic studies and doing charity and performing sacrifices, they attain certain type of results. So is yogi or the devotee bereft of those? Krishna says no, he attains the highest perfection. He is not even bereft of those, he attains all those. So there, that's where we concluded. So this is the whole summary of first 8 chapters actually we did in this short time. And then here he is giving, now I'm going to give you the most confidential knowledge. He's telling Arjuna. Why? Because you are never envious of me. Anasuyode. And what will happen when you understand this knowledge? Moksha se ashubhat. That you will be freed from all the ashubha in this material world, because this world, actually Krishna said earlier in this 8th chapter, right? Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Mamipatya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam. This world is place of miseries. Everything here is ashubha. Unless one engages in Krishna's devotional service, everything is ashubha here. So then when you understand this knowledge and when you apply jnanam, vijnana, jnana is theoretical knowledge and vijnana is realized or the practically applied knowledge. When you apply it, or when you get complete realization of this knowledge, you will be completely relieved or released from these miseries of the material existence. So this is what he has mentioned. Prabhupada mentions that in the first few chapters, he gives the confidential knowledge. In the 7th and 8th chapter, he jumped into the more confidential knowledge. And then here, now he's saying that what I am going to give you is the most confidential knowledge. So now in this first verse, he's using the idam jnanam, this knowledge. So what is this knowledge, this confidential knowledge? Idam tu te guhyatamam. Idam. So this knowledge is about the pure devotional service. The concluding verse of 9th chapter is where he established that you should be becoming my devotee. Manmana bhavamad bhakta. Madhyaji mam namaskuru. Mame vaishasya tvaevam atmanam matparayana. That is the last verse of this chapter. You always think of me. Become my bhakta, mad bhakta. Madhyaji, worship me. Mam namaskuru, offer your homage or offer your namaskar to me. Mame vaishasi, by doing this, is it because Krishna is very proud and that's why he's asking him to that you should do me? No, because he's compassionate and he says that you are rotting here in this material way, you are suffering. But by doing this, you will come back to me, come back to our home. Just like a father to a drunkard son, where he is loitering outside everywhere and father is very compassionate. Please give up this all nonsense. Come back home. We can live together very nicely, peaceful way. In the same manner, Krishna is telling us that do all this. Mame vaishasi and yuktaivam atman na mat parayana, and then you will become mat parayana. You will always be, we'll live together, and it will be, that is what is the natural, actual swabhavika life for a living entity. But here we are trying to artificially get some happiness by enjoying these material senses. So that's what is the spiritual consciousness. So he's giving us that Krishna refers here to the nine processes of devotional service. So this we read, Prahlad Maharaj gives, right? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dastyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. So Prabhupada gives here in English translation. Hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, Sakhyam, and surrendering everything, Atma Nivedanam. These are the 9 processes, different processes, and one can adopt any one of these or more than one of these or all 9 of these, and that way one can perform bhakti of Krishna. And by practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to the spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness. And then by doing this, our heart is automatically cleared of all the material impurities we have been carrying for past many lifetimes, and we become free from all that entanglement and slowly progress on our spiritual. So that is the beginning of the spiritual realization. And when one understands these activities of the body and the spiritual activities, then he understands the first lesson that Krishna mentioned in the second chapter is that first realization we get is that I am not this body, I am spiritual soul. So Anasuya way, Prabhupada emphasizes this here, is also very significant, very important, because this knowledge can be given to somebody who is not envious of Krishna. And when we say not envious of Krishna, if he is not envious of Krishna, he cannot be envious of any other living entity. So even if we are envious of somebody, that means we have envy to Krishna. And then he mentions a couple of things here that even most erudite scholars write commentary on Bhagavad Gita, they write inaccurately because they try to read Bhagavad Gita and take out Krishna from that. They remove Krishna from it and then try to understand Bhagavad Gita. But on every page, even this verse, what we read here, what does it say? Shri Bhagavan Vacha. So Krishna is mentioned or referred in the whole Bhagavad Gita as Bhagavan, and he's saying this to, oh, you should do this to me, you should do my bhakti, you should understand I am the source of everything, I am the source of even the devatas and rishis and everything, materials and spiritual creation, and I am the one who is maintaining. He's mentioning everywhere, but the scholars, what they do is they remove Krishna from this and try to understand Bhagavad Gita. And then why do they do that? Because they are envious of Krishna. Why only Krishna is enjoying? I want to enjoy. I will read this Bhagavad Gita, but I'll throw away Krishna out of this and then I will present it in my own way. And that's why this commentary is Prabhupada called as useless. And I think we talked about one of the verses that Sanatana Goswami refers from Padma Puran, right? Avaishnava mukhodgirnam putam harikathamritam shavanam naiva kartavyam. Why? Sarpochishta yathapaya. That any Harikatha or Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam or any spiritual understanding or any knowledge, one should never hear from the mouth of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava means non-devotee, one who is not devotee or bhakta of Krishna. A Vaishnava mukhodgirnam putam. This Harikatha is very, very pure, but still one should never hear it from the mouth of a Vaishnava, non-devotee. Shavanam naiva kartavyam. Why? Just like it is pure like a milk, but that same milk, if it is touched by a serpent, then it becomes poisonous. In the same manner, even this knowledge is pure. If it is coming from a mouth of an Vaishnava, it becomes polluted because he adds his own understanding and his inferior motive into that knowledge, and that's how he tries to give this knowledge. So it doesn't remain pure. It becomes poisonous. And that's why Prabhupada says that no one can explain Bhagavad Gita or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he is envious of Krishna. And that's why we should learn Bhagavad Gita only from a devotee, Bhagavad Gita Bhagavatam. So Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, one should hear only from the person Bhagavat. The person Bhagavat is one who is devoted to Bhagavan. He is a Bhagavat. And so it is very, very important that we listen or get this knowledge from a person Bhagavat and understand it in that way, because that way we get the real transcendental benefit from this. Otherwise, it remains only at a mundane level, and then we speculate this. Oh, Krishna said like this and Krishna said like that, and one should, why Krishna is doing all this stuff. And so we have so many questions unnecessary, and those are not clarified, because the first quality of getting this knowledge is surrender and being non-envious of Krishna. So there is one place I think Prabhupada mentioned or quoted a Bhakti Samrita Sindhu reference here. So he mentions that it is said that although one who has sincere desire to render loving service to Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in the conditioned state of material existence, he is to be considered liberated. Okay. So if a person, so the words here, Prabhupada is quoting here is from the Bhakti Rasamrita by Srila Rupa Goswami, whom we offer respects in the beginning. So he mentions, Ihar yasya harer dase karmana manasagira nikhaleshwa avasthasu jivan mukta sauchyate. Ihar, yes, in this world, in this material world also, in this material existence, one accepts Hari's dasyatva, Krishna's dasya, and he's serving him by karmana, by his physical activities, manasa in his mind, and gira means our ability to speech. So by our physical ability to work, by my work, by my speaking ability, and by my mind, if one is completely engaged in serving Hari, then even if in this material world, Jivan Mukta Sauchyate, he is to be considered as liberated. He is ever liberated, even though he seemed to be in the material world and working like a normal person. But because he has engaged all his faculties through which he can work, that is the ability to work through physical body, mind, and speech, he is considered as liberated person. So I just wanted to refer that here. So yes, Prabhuji, any thoughts or reflections?
So, Prabhuji, this is the very first verse of this chapter,
Yes.
where we broadly basically touched all those 8 chapters what we covered so far. Right? And Miss Sri Krishna has imparted whatever knowledge so far to Arjuna, right? And means that knowledge plus apart from this, this is the most confidential knowledge. That's what is mentioned in this first verse, right? And it is said that okay, whatever you want to learn about this, basically a mundane person cannot just talk about it and teach you. It has to be done in the association with or in association of Guru Shishya Parampara only. In that way, and it should be means then only basically means what he's saying that because of this confidential or highly confidential knowledge, whatever that miseries of this world, right, or the material world, you will get rid from it once you understand this. Right. So, but most important is the short briefing of the all these 8 chapters, right from the beginning, where you rightly said that in first chapter there is nothing about a Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. It's only the background of this Bhagavad Gita started until the 8th chapter, where Arjuna has many questions, including what is Brahman, what is that he said that first few words I forgot, but where at the time of death, how to remember you and all. So Krishna has answered all those, but apart from that, there are many there are things which are highly confidential or which will start from now.
Correct.
And those should be learned basically. If you really want to understand those, then probably someone really knowledgeable should talk about it, because as many people who try to pretend that they understand, but they take heart out of the body kind of thing, right? There is no heart in it, and they will try to protect that they understood everything. But it should be done from the right, in the right association and in the Guru Parashishya Parampara only.
Yes, Prabhuji, very nicely summarized. Yeah.
This is what is in this first shloka.
Yes, Madhu Prabhu.
या जसं की याने समराईज केलं त्याप्रमाणे उपाय त्याच्या याच्यामध्ये पूर्ण त्यांनी मागच्या सगळ्या चॅप्टर्सचा सारांश दिलाय आणि इथून पुढे आता जे पुढच्या श्लोक मध्ये येईल सगळं नॉलेज आपल्याला कळेल. म्हणजे आता पुढच्या श्लोक मध्ये या या श्लोकनी त्यांनी म्हणजे सुरुवात करून बेसिकली ह्या चॅप्टर हे काय असणार आहे.
नाही, या वर्स मध्ये नाहीये पूर्वीची समरी. आपण वी जस्ट कॉट अप एव्हरीथिंग वेअर वी आर राईट नाउ. पर्पट मध्ये दिली. पर्पट मध्ये प्रभुपाद मेन्शन्स दॅट. And Krishna is saying that now I have given you some knowledge, but now I am going to give you most confidential. So be very attentive.
थोडक्यात म्हणजे आधी फाउंडेशन तयार केलं. नाव वी स्टार्टेड कन्स्ट्रक्शन बेसिकली.
So imagine what knowledge we have. He has given in 7th and 8th chapter was already heavy. So now he is saying, "Oh, I am going to give you most confidential." So yeah, it's very.
Is a confidential when you say, right? When I say confidential म्हणजे की असं काय म्हणतात, one should not share or disclose it, right? पण इथे confidential the way means very liberally we are using this word. So what exactly the confidential words real meaning here?
So guhyatamam, guhya is confidential or secret.
Yeah, secret. Basically, so, secret knowledge म्हणतो आपण. Secret. पण याचं सिक्रेट म्हणजे काय एक्झॅक्ट? या सिक्रेट शब्दाचा अर्थ फार मोठा वाटतो इथे.
It's very, very nice question. I was going to touch that in the next, because it says that it is king of all the secrets. But why it is called secret? So because Bhagavad Gita is it available to all? It's open book, right? It's freely available. Anybody can read it. Anybody can. But still, Krishna says that this is secret knowledge.
Yeah.
So how is secret? Because it cannot be understood by anybody. It has to be learned from Guru Shishya Parampara, and only in that way, one who is Tattvadarshi, one who has realized this knowledge, that person can explain this knowledge. That's why even though it is open, still it is most confidential.
I see.
Just like
unless it, sorry. No, unless it is gone by through that Guru Shishya Parampara, probably it will be interpreted very, very wrongly.
Correct.
That's why it is gone.
So it's the secret.
It's a secret, okay.
It's a secret. So even though people might see this, but they will not get this. People read Bhagavad Gita, and just to give an example, now before Prabhupada came to America, there were many people came to America from America or Europe from Bharat and tried to give this knowledge. There were many commentaries were written on the Bhagavad Gita. Many commentaries. And even now there are so many commentaries written on Bhagavad Gita. But in Bhagavad Gita, we have learned so far. In many places, Krishna says that, "Oh, surrender unto me, become my devotee. My devotee is the supreme." We have learned so far. Even we haven't even finished half of Bhagavad Gita. We have learned so far, and then in many chapters, and then even in the concluding verse of this chapter, said he clearly says, "Bhava mad bhakto."
Yeah.
Simple terms. Any Sanskrit scholar, anybody who knows Sanskrit, he will understand. Bhava mad bhakto means become my devotee. Simple, right? आपण आशीर्वाद देताना नाही म्हणतो ना, अष्टपुत्री सौभाग्यवती भव, आयुष्यमान भव. भव म्हणजे बिकम, आणि आयुष्यमान म्हणजे गेट लॉंग लाईफ. सेम मॅनर ही सेइंग भव मद भक्तो. Or even in the 18th chapter, I am giving only prominent verses that he says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. But still, even after so many editions of Bhagavad Gita, so many preachers of Bhagavad Gita, they came to West or even in India, tried to teach. How many people became devotee of Krishna?
Right.
Not many. I don't know anybody actually.
True.
But when Prabhupada came and taught this Bhagavad Gita, and that's why he says Bhagavad Gita as it is. The way Krishna has taught, I am presenting it as it is. It is not, I am concocting my own way. Oh, Krishna might have said like this, or Krishna is not like this, or oh, this Bhagavad Gita, this Kurukshetra is our body. Somebody mentions like that, and five Pandavas are of five Indras. No, Prabhupada says this is all nonsense. Kurukshetra, even today there is a place called Kurukshetra. Why are you concocting all this? And five Pandavas was there. There are historic monuments. There is Pandavoka Kila even in Delhi today. You have places for this, all references. But still you are coming up with this nonsense. Oh, this is not about the places. Krishna was never existing. Krishna is just a character mentioned here. Or somebody says, oh, Krishna was here and now he's gone. But he's mentioning he's eternal. So nobody became devotee of Krishna. But after Prabhupada came, it was a revolution.
Yeah.
Even a nonsense person who were drunkards, they gave up all their bad habits and became devotee of Krishna. So that is the power of Bhagavad Gita taught by a pure devotee. And now every single country in this world has people who read this Bhagavad Gita as it is and becoming devotees, and they are following, they have become more staunch devotees than many people in India. So that's why it is confidential knowledge.
Got it, yeah. मी ते ऍक्च्युअली 4थ्या चॅप्टरच्या सुरुवातीला ते होता ना श्लोक इशू ऑफ तेव्हाच विचारलं होतं पण राहून गेला की कॉन्फिडेन्शियल का म्हणतात म्हणून. Okay, but yeah, got a reference now.
Yeah, and actually there are, this term comes, he says that after this he says confidential, then he says there is something, the most confidential knowledge in the Vedas also. What is that? He will mention in the end of the 15th chapter, which you probably know the last verse.
Yeah.
Idam tu te guhyatamam pravakshami soyave. नाही त्याचे
त्याच्यात
15व्यातले शेवटची वर्ष आहे.
इदम उक्तम मया नग एतद् बुद्ध्वा बुद्धिमानस्य कृतकृत्यस्य भारत.
त्याच्या आधीची काय?
त्याच्या आधीची मला पहिला शब्द असल्याशिवाय नाही कळत.
बघूया ना आपण, आपल्याकडे भगवद्गीता आहे ना.
बरं, पहिला शब्द कळला की मी
मला पण तेच म्हणजे मला लक्षात एकदम असं क्विकली नाही. 14th आहे, सॉरी. There also he says that this is confidential.
यो मामेव सम्मूढो
जानाति पुरुषोत्तमं सर्व द्विजयतिम सर्व भावेन.
See these verses here, okay? Last two verses we'll see. यो मामेव सम्मूढो जानाति पुरुषोत्तम स सर्वविद भजति मां सर्व भावेन भारत. That whoever knows me as the supreme personality of Godhead, yo mam evam asammudho, without any doubt, janati, knows me, what? Purusha uttama, the best Purusha, best, the supreme person. That person, sarvavid, he is the knower of everything. What does he do? Bhajati mam, he worships me. How? Sarva bhavena, by surrendering everything unto me, O Bharata. So, and then he says in the last verse, iti guhyatamam, again he uses word guhyatamam. So what he said in the previous verse, that sarva bhavena bharata, everybody worships me, I am the great personality in the Vedic, all the Vedic knowledge. So iti, this guhyatamam shastram, this is the most confidential shastra. Idam uktam mayanaga, now I have told you. Etad buddhva, one who knows this, Buddhiman Syat, he becomes the most intelligent person. And Kritakrityascha Bharata, he becomes his life become Kritakritya, means all successful. So here also he says Guhyatamam. And what is the Guhyatamam? That Krishna is the Purushottam. Vyomame asammuda. Without any doubt, one who accepts that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then he knows this, he surrenders unto me and worships me sarva bhavena. So that is the Guhyatamam he is mentioning here again. That is the most confidential part of the Vedic literature. What he says, this is the most confidential part, what he mentioned in the previous verse, of all the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is now disclosed now by me to you. I have given you this most confidential knowledge. Whoever understands this will become wise, buddhiman syat, and his endeavors will know perfection. That's a janma krita kritya hoy. So this is confidential. So here also he is saying clearly that he with bhajati mam. He becomes, he worships me, maji bhakti karto, bhajadatu. And how? Sarva bhavena. Purnapane. O Bharata. So that's why this is confidential knowledge. Because even people read this, people read Bhagavad Gita. There are many people, they have all 700 slokas kantastha. It's good, yes, but understanding is more important.
Right.
And that's why this is confidential. Actually, in the today's verse, the next verse, what we will read, that he says it is king of all the secret, all the knowledge, and king of all the secrets. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam. And that is also the title of this chapter. Rajavidya. This is, Vidya is Jnana or knowledge. And this is Rajavidya. What I'm going to give you is king of all the knowledge. And at the same time, this is also king of all the secrets. This is most confidential. So this is what, this is why it is called confidential. Even though people claim that they know this, but they don't understand this secret. And they don't want to understand this because they are envious of Krishna. They don't want to accept this. Why Krishna is only supreme. So that's why it is called as most confidential knowledge.
Got it.
It's open secret.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we can stop here today.
Okay.
Thank you. I think that was really good start to 9th chapter, and we'll continue next week.